Recording in progress.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Introduction to Web Design. It's Art 196, fall semester 2021. Where we left off last week, and I apologize for having to cancel our webinar on Tuesday, but we're kind of ahead of the game so far. Anyway, what I wanted to do is continue with lesson 6. And last week, before I move ahead with adding some semantic content, in the third row that we have, which has 2 asides and a center article, is to talk a minute about the header that we created. And that one of the mistakes that I made is that I wasn't paying attention, and I added instead of adding 20 pixels of padding, I added 20 pixels to the margins. So let me show you what happens if we want to add padding. What it will do is it'll take this top edge here and the bottom if we wish, and we can increase the amount of space between it and the objects in the middle. So if I click in here and I drag, okay, let's go ahead and I don't want that much. Let's go ahead and, yeah, anyway, you can see how it went to 4 pixels, 6 pixels. So I hope my computer is behaving this morning. It was a moment ago. So let me put in 50 pixels and see where that takes us. And you should along the top. Okay, and it's not behaving. I don't know why. There we go. It's lagging a bit. You can see that it's actually increased the amount of space up there, and not along the bottom. So there's still 20 pixels along the bottom. So I'll change this back. Now, if I were to, instead of adding padding, if I wanted to add margins, it would actually separate the header from the nav bar. So instead of showing set here, I'm going to uncheck that. And then I can come back here to margins, and let's go ahead and separate. And I'll show you if I go, this is where I wasn't paying attention. If I come back here and I put in 20 pixels. Come on, don't do this to me. There we go. Now you can see that gap between them. So if that's the look that you're going for, that's what you would do if you want a separation between your nav bar and the header, and then a separation between the header and the rest of your content. That's what you would do. You would add margins between those boxes, but that's not what I want to do. We want it all kind of snug together. So there we go. Let me get rid of that. And it is a little sluggish. So I hope that doesn't affect us too much today. Anyway, where we're going to begin today is we're going to add what is called semantic content. And you may or may not use this on your own personal website. But one of the things that we're going to do to the aside is show you how to add, if you're going to add a quote by someone, and in that quote you include the author and things like that. There's specific rules that you need to follow, or you should follow, in order to do it correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the second row down here, or the third row rather. We can see that it's our main row that we named, and I'm going to go over here to the DOM. And what I want to do is I want to select under main, I want to select the left side right here and see if it selects. There we go. So there's our left side right here. That's what I want. Column small 4, and it says aside. We renamed that in lesson 4. Yeah, 4, 5. Anyway, now to go ahead and to be able to add content to that, there's a variety of ways that we can do it. I could actually just do that in code view if I wanted to. But what the book is telling us to do is I'm going to come up here to insert and make sure that we're on HTML inserts. And what I want to do is I want to insert a paragraph tag. So if I come down here, that's heading, table, here we go, here's our paragraph tag. So I'm going to double click on it. And a little box should pop up in a minute. It says, where do I want it? I want it nested inside that. Okay, in a couple of seconds. Again, it's my computer's lagging. So why it's doing that, I don't know. Now, in place of this, we're going to go ahead and click inside here. Okay, so that now we see the orange box surrounding the text, the placement text that it put in here. And what we want to do is put in quotes, and we can put insert quotation here. Okay. And you can do that there, or you can do that inside the code view as well. And I'm looking at it in split view. So insert quotation here, period, quote. Yeah, it's behaving sluggishly, and I apologize. Okay. Really slow. I think this is an Adobe problem because everything else is working pretty well on my computer right now, and I have a lot of other things turned on. So now to add another paragraph, I can either go to I can just hit the return key, and that will do it. So I'll do that, show you how that works. And it will automatically, and if you look in the code view, you should be able to see that. Come on. There we go. So now it added another one with a paragraph break. And what we're going to do is insert author here. But this time I'm going to go ahead and in the code view, just to show you that we can do it there. Within the opening and closing tags of the P tag, I can go ahead and highlight in here, because I don't want that the break here, the non-break. So I'm going to click on there, return back, delete key a couple times since my computer is behaving slowly, and say insert author here. Okay, so we have two paragraphs inside our left side, but now we want to make it compatible for when you actually do use a quote. So what we want to do, a good way of doing that is to come back over here to the DOM, and I'm going to select both of these paragraphs. So I'll select the one over here, hold down the shift key and select the second one. Now with both of them selected, what I want to do is I'm going to insert, it's, what is it called? It's called, oh shoot, I can't think. It's, oh, I should know this by heart. Why am I drawing a blank here? Well, that's what happens when I talk like this. It's block quote. There we go. Okay, so with both of these selected, I'm going to go ahead and click the plus. And I want it to wrap the tag around it. Okay. And I don't want that. So I'm going to undo. Should have, oh, I want, there we go. Let me do this again. And everything is behaving very slowly. So let me go ahead here. And instead of div, I want block quote. BLOCK. And you can see that it comes up here, select it, and hit the return key twice. And let's look here to see if it has been inserted. And you can see wrapped around the two paragraphs are what is called a block quote. And you can see that it's already been stylized a little bit. There's a little on the left side by default, there's a bar over to the left. And you can see that I misspelled quotation. So I'm going to go back in here and I'll go ahead and code view. If I can get this to work. This is very annoying. I'm sure for you too, that it's behaving so slowly. It's just a very slow lag here. And I restarted my computer and everything. So it was working fine yesterday. I have the feeling that it's a combination of working with them. Come on. There we go. It's a combination of both publishing and broadcasting with all of you, as well as, and I have these others that I don't want here. This should have been, or something happened here. So this should be, the block quote went away. I don't know why. So I'll put in block quote. Okay, and then I'll put the closing tag for block quote. Make sure that since I put it in by hand, that it's spelled correctly. There we go. So now we have the proper syntax. One more thing that we want to do, and that is where we say insert author here. Instead of a paragraph tag, we're going to use what is called a cite tag. The cite tag is what is used for the author. So again, I'm going to come back here for the opening and closing tag. And again, it's behaving very sluggishly. There we go. So I've got that there. No. And I'm going to delete the P. And I'm going to put in, oh, come on. And I'm put in cite, C-I-T-E. And that should be closing tag. So I'm going to add that closing. I don't want a P tag there. There's the closing tag. And then I'll come back and put my cursor in here, delete the P, and put in cite. There we go. So that should be corrected now. There you go. See the little red mark on the line that indicates that there was a problem with the code is finished. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. So we have the proper syntax for that. The next thing that we want to do is to properly style it. So I'm going to come back over here to our CSS Designer. Okay. I want to make sure that green styles is selected. And what we're going to do now is add a new selector that targets specifically block quotes inside or aside, and nothing more and nothing less. It's very, very specific. So I'm going to go ahead and hit plus sign here in selectors. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and I didn't want to do that. Something happened here. Okay, let me try again. Go ahead. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in. And what it should be is main.row. So again, we're going from general to specific. It's the main row. Space, aside. So now it's targeting the aside. And then space again and put in block quote. Okie doke, hit the return key twice. And you'll see that the author here is flush left. We want it flush right. And we're going to do a few other things to this as well. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to change the margins. And I do want to change the margins. I want it to be 0. So again, even though it says 0, you have to put this in by hand and make sure that it works. 0 pixels. And I go down to the next one to the right. And I want this to be 0 pixels. But to the on the bottom, we want it to be 20 pixels. So 0 pixels. And then on the bottom, we want 20 pixels. So that there's a lot of padding along the bottom. Okay. And then we want over to the left, again, it works in a clockwise fashion here. We want 0 pixels. And I hit the tab to finish it. Then that's for margins. Then what we want to do for padding is we're just going to use shorthand. And we're going to put up here 0 pixels. Okay. Under padding, we're not going to put anything for position. And since you put 0 pixels, 0 px, it will assume that you want 0 pixels all the way around. Okie doke. So I already substituted site since I'm going a little bit out of order. But now what we want to do is we want to stylize the paragraph tag inside a block quote. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create another selector for that. And that's going to be main.row aside block quote P. So I'm going to go ahead here and create a brand new selector. And I'm going to put main.row aside. And I want block quote a space and a P. So this only affects a paragraph inside a block quote inside the aside. And that's it. Again, very, very specific. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to stylize that. And I want the margin for it to be, what do we want it? I want 0050. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and just use shorthand up here. So I put 0 px. Oh, come on. I didn't want position. I want up here. There we go, padding. 0 px, put a space. Come on. Px, space, 0 px. So that will be for the right. And then we want 5 pixels for the bottom, 5 px. All very tedious, but once we get all of this done, it will, and we save it and everything works nicely, we'll be in good shape. Okay, you'll notice that it's updated inside these boxes in here. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to change the padding. That was from, oh shoot. That was supposed to be for margins. So let me go ahead and kill that. Let's go back up here. For the margins, I wanted 0. 0 px space 0 px, and I want 5 px space 0 px. There we go. Okay, so that was for margins. Now for padding, we want 0 px, and we're going to use a different unit for the left and to the right, and it's going to be ems. I believe I explained that to all of you before. So padding will be 0 pixels top and bottom, and we want 0.5 ems. There we go. And you can see how that changed, and it's updating. If it's not updating as you're making the changes, then you know that we have misnamed our selector here. Okay. And then we want text indent. So I'm going to go to text, and I want text indent. Let me see if I can find this here. Text transform spacing. It's hidden in here somewhere. I want text indent, and I want that to be -1 em. Here we go, right here. So here what we want is text indent -1 em, -1 em. Okay. Whoops. Well, I didn't want pixels. That's why it's not working. I want ems. Come on. There we go. I added it. There you go. So now you'll notice that the first line hangs over to the right a little bit. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create something specific for the site tag. And the site tag we want to be flushed right. We're going to add a few other things. We're going to add italic to the font style and that sort of thing. We're going to display is going to be for block. And again, it's all very tedious, but that's what we have to do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new selector here. And this one is similar. It's main.row space aside. And then we're going to go to block quote. And a space, and then we want site. So now it just targets the site within that area. So now what we want is for the display. Let's come back up here. And let's see what we can find. It's not easy. There we go. Under display here, we want block. How do we know? Because it's telling us padding. So we don't want any margins now. We want 0 and 10. So again, that's 0 for top, bottom, 10 left and right. So we're using the shorthand method. 0 pixels, space, and 10, px. And I'll hit the tab key. And then what I want is the font under font style. So let's go to here. Let's go to font weight, font style. I want that to be italic. And that should update. There we go. And then we want text align. We want it to be to the right. So I come down to text align and I click that button and it should slide over. Okay. And let's see, let's make sure that that's working. Let's go back to text because it's not sliding over. I don't see it sliding over. So there we go, text align, right. So let's make sure that that is the site tag. It's inside the block quote, and it is. And let's create. So something isn't working here. So I need to check to make sure that I've done everything correctly here. So let's go back up. I've got block quote, and that's spelled correctly. I've got the closing tag for block quote. It's inside the aside tag. I have a paragraph tag for quotation, and now I have 2 O's in there. So I'm sure there's, because of the lag here, there's some sort of problem that we have. So let's go back over here and let's select and see if I've misspelled anything. And it's quite possible that I'm going to go ahead and double click in here. That I should have had Come on. Main. Oh, I misspelled row. That would be helpful. Put ROE. Told you. Now let's see if it works. So again, spelling, syntax, all is important. And you can see that it's working now. That did move it over. Main.row, aside, lock a quote P. So far, so good, I believe. Okay. So everything is indented, side. Let's go back. Okay. So I think we're good to go. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create for both of the asides, we're going to create a bar that goes along the top and the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new selector here. And again, this is all that tedious work here. We're going to go ahead and this is going to be main.row aside. Now remember, it will affect the aside to the right as well. So what I want to do, and something still isn't working with this, and I'm not sure what we got going on here. So let me select in here, because it looks like I have two block quotes here. So let me select, come down here, and let's look at column 4. Let's select the block quote. So I'm using the tag selector for that. And again, because everything is just so damn slow on my computer, it is, what do I say? It just is very problematic here. So we have the P, we have, let's go back in here. Let's select the site. And that's correct, but this isn't presenting itself correctly up here. This where it says insert author here. So maybe it should be main. Let's try this. I'm going to double click and I'm going to click here. Actually, I want where it's block quote, and I'm going to put a space between main and .row. Hit the return key, and that was it. I needed a space, and I needed to do the same for the top one too. So all of these is main space. There we go. So now on each of these, I need to go up and down. And that's why it wasn't presenting, because now when it highlights, hitting the return key twice to update the name. There we go. And let's try this one now. My apologies again. This is just very, my computer is just very sluggish at the moment. It's not working. So I'm going to go back to where the finished one where it says my layout, and I'm going to see where I goofed up. And it looks like it's working, but insert here, notice the size difference and everything. So if I look, and it is right, I have everything correct. I have main, whoops, let's go back here. let's go back to green styles. This is a good way of checking, is to look at the finished version and see where, we mess up. And it doesn't take much. So we go to header and we go down to, scroll down here for a minute. I want main.row. I had it right the first time. It's main.row. Okay, so there is no space. So I was right, but it's still not functioning properly. So that was why I made the change, to see if there was something going on here. So I'm back to mine, and I need to, there we go. So I need to go back again. And I need to get rid of that space that I had. Make sure that my spelling is correct and that sort of thing. So I'm double clicking on each of these. To open it up, and then hit the return twice to make the changes, the necessary changes. And double click again to get in there. And it's just, the lag time is just very painful. I hate that. So let's make sure that I have that the alignment is correct. So I'm going to look at text. And it should be, right for the site tag. And it's just not sliding over the way it's supposed to. I'm going to move on. And I guess, there we go. Boy, talk about lag time. That's horrible. But now it's working. Why such a slow lag? I don't know. So you shouldn't have this problem at home. So now it's working just fine. Oh, on to the next. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the, move on to the article. So let's go to main. There we go. We're going to move into the article here. And what I want to do is, with it selected, I'm using the DOM, is what I want to do is I want to go back to insert. And where we're going to add, what we're going to insert is we're going to insert a heading tag. And it's going to be an H1 tag, not an H2. So I have to click on here to see what I have. Come on. Just, if it comes, see that under here, there should be a whole bunch of them. I don't want an H2. Well, I guess I could insert the H2 and then change it by hand. There we go. See the little lag on my computer? I want an H1 tag. There we go. Now I can double click. Come on. There we go. And I want to nest it so that it's inside. And boy, we aren't going to get that much done today due to this lag. So now I want to highlight this, my H1 tag, and I'm just going to do it in the code view. It might be easier, maybe not. And I want to put insert main heading here. So there we go. There we go. So that's the H1 tag that's in here. It should be inside our article tag, opening, closing, and it is. So as I'm adding this, I'm double checking and make sure that it's, correct. And then I'm going to go ahead and just at the end of this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the return key twice. Nope, let's go. I want to make sure I'm outside of that tag. So let me return that. Come on. There we go. So I need to put the cursor just outside or click here at the very end in edit mode. So that should come up in orange. There we go. Now I can hit the return key once. And we should get a new paragraph tag. You know what? I forgot to do the something else. I did forget that last part. So I'm going to go back a minute. So we have paragraph, and I don't want to break here. I want 2 paragraphs. So let me come back over here. There we go. The return, the delete key. Oh, this is just so frustrating. Damn. And I'll just put in the placeholder tag here. This is going to be insert subheading here. And this one is going to be insert, what do we want? Content here. This is also boring when it's so slow. There we go. Let's see if that catches up, and we put it in here. Come on. There we go. Boy, how that's horrible. Let me go back to the CSS Designer, because I was adding that new selector that affected both of the asides, and I never completed that because I was having trouble with the quote and the block quote. And again, it's just taken forever to. Okay, here it is. So I added it. So it is main.row aside. So now what I can do with that is I can come back and we can add a few things. So what we want to do is we're going to add borders, top and bottom. So I'll select the top one first. And what we want to do is we're going to use, it's going to be, width is going to be 5 pixels. I don't want medium. I want 5 px. There we go. The style is going to be solid. And then we have to establish the color, which is kind of a deep blue. So this is going to be solid. And we want color, and then we're going to have to establish the margins and the padding. I think we already created this, but I'm going to go ahead and type it in anyway. It's 069. 069. There we go. And you can see that it's showing up here, there, and there. Here's the border along the top. Now I have to do that for the bottom. Do the same thing. So again, width is going to be 5 pixels. How are we doing on time? Not too bad, but this should have gone much quicker. And color, again, we're going to use the 069. Actually, you know, the bottom one is 3 pixels. My mistake. Let's go ahead here. I mean, you could use 5 pixels, but they're specifying the book 3. Let's go back again. Style, solid. Come on. Solid. And the color again is 069. It's pound 069. And we click it off, and then we should see down at the bottom. Now you can see here, this one is on the right is doubled up. So we really don't see it that well. Now, once we add margins and padding, it should show up much better. So that's the next thing that we need to fix. So let's go back over to here again in properties, and I'm going to look at margins. And under margins along the for each of them, we're going to put 1em and 0 pixels. So 1em, 1em, and 0px. So that's for the margins, and we're also going to do that for the padding as well. And you can see how it pushed it down, and it will do the same when we do that for the padding. Make sure that I get padding. There we go. We want the same thing, 1em and 0 pixels, 1em and 0px. There you go. So that part is working. So we have most of this done, which isn't too bad. I'm sorry it's taking so long though. So the next thing that we're going to do today, we'll see how much more time we have to get this done. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunate for you today, I have a meeting at 11. So in 5 minutes or so, I'll have to knock this off, unless you guys have questions. But anyway, what we're going to do next is we're going to make the right aside different from the left. So I'm going to click inside here, and you can see where it says aside. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to add a specific class to it. So now we can affect both of these, or we can isolate them, and we're going to isolate the right one. So what I want to do now to the right one on the right, once this is selected, is I'm going to select the little plus button here and put dot sidebar 2. So this will be a new class that we'll have added, and we should have been added over here. You'll notice that it is dot sidebar 2. when you add a class, make sure that you add the period first. Classes are designated by a period, their name, again, all lowercase, in this case, 2. So now we can assign specifics to sidebar 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to assign a background color to this. That's kind of a light green. So what we want to do is in sidebar 2, we're going to go to background. Let's see if this works. So we're going to click on the background color. And I'm not sure that I have it up or not. So I'm going to put in CFC. And then we're going to change the padding for this too. So CFC. There we go. So that's working. And now what we want to do is put in padding for this sidebar 2. And it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to put in 0 pixels and 10. So we're going to go back here. We're going to go to padding. And again, we're using the shorthand. So again, it's 0 for top and bottom, and it is 10 pixels left and right. So 0 pixels, px, and 10 pixels, tab, left and right. And it should change it in a minute. Okay. There we go. So we've changed that. Now we're going to put an H2 tag in here, and we're going to put some placeholder text, and that might be pretty much all of the time that we have for today. So to piggyback on the sidebar 2, we're going to add a new selector. And this is going to be sidebar 2 H2 tag, an H2 tag. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new selector. And this is going to be dot sidebar 2 space, and then we're going to H2. So now we're getting really specific again. So it's that if we had an H2 tag over here, okay, this rule would only affect one on the right, and that's it. So that's how specific we're getting with all of this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and insert, well, I could have inserted the content in here anyway. Let me go ahead and click in here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go down here, make sure that I have the right one. I want the right side here. Okay. Sidebar 2, okay. So inside this, I'm going to put in a couple of tags. So we'll need a sidebar 2 paragraph tag, and I already created the one for the H2 tag. So again, I'm going to go ahead and insert it in here. So I'm going to go back to insert, and we want an H2 tag. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, H2, and then I'm going to double click. I want it to nest. There you go. And then we're going to customize it. So we want insert sidebar heading here. So I'll click in here, highlight it. Now notice how big the type is. That's going to change shortly because we don't want it that big. And that's what. Okay. And then I can go ahead and I can hit the return key, and then that will create a paragraph, and we'll put in insert sidebar content here. So we have our H2 tag, and we have a paragraph tag. So now let's go back to the CSS Designer, and for the sidebar 2, H2, we're going to go ahead and we're going to change the margins to just 10 pixels all the way around. Because notice how it butts up against the edge of our div. We want it to be inset a little bit. So under margins, we're just going to go ahead and use the shorthand method, and I'm going to use 10 pixels. And that will push it in a tad. Okay. Come on, there we go. Notice how it's pushed in a little bit. We're good to go. And margin along the bottom, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put 5 pixels. So let me go ahead and I'm going to put 10 top. I don't want left and right. Hold on. Nope. I want to get rid of this one here. So I'll get rid of the right and I'm going to get rid of the left. Come on. But I want 5 pixels on the bottom for margins. There we go. 5 pixels. There we go. And then for the padding, we'll change that. And we're going to put padding is going to be combined. It's going to be 0. So 0 top and bottom, and it's going to be 10 left and right. So we'll go ahead and use the shorthand method for that. 0 pixels and 10 pixels. And that should bring it in a bit. And then what we want, font size is 130%. And again, that's something, the size itself, you'd have to kind of play with. So under font, we're going to leave the font black, but we're going to go ahead and change the font size. And I'm going to change it to percentages. Now, how do you know to use percentages? You don't, only through experience. And generally, font sizes are determined in web design in percentages and M's. So I'll put 130%. So it's and 100% is generally the default size that a browser uses. And you can see that it's much smaller than it was before. So now it's much smaller. And so we have that. And we have the line height. What we want to use is 1.4 M's. So I'll put that here. .4 M's. So let me go back. There we go. Okay. Last one to do. And actually, I got to stop here. So I appreciate your patience today. We'll continue with this on Tuesday. We'll get the footer done. And then we'll probably start working on lesson 7. Once that's done, then we'll be good to go. Again, I thank you. Hopefully, my computer will be working at a little bit faster speed. Okay. So for my layout, got it. Okay, it's good that you were able to fix it. Yeah, it doesn't take much to goof up. It really doesn't. And it's, you know, as things get goofed up, you have to kind of go back and kind of figure out what, you know, what gives, you know, and figure it out until you get it right. Because if you go too far along, you could run into problems. It'll be much more difficult to troubleshoot down the road. Okay, well, I'm going to pause and I'm going to stop recording today so I can go to my other meeting. And I'll see all of you back here on Tuesday. Okay.